Alright, so Thoughts to Ponder is a variety show, and the views expressed are not necessarily those of your girl Tamara Dawn. I created this show so that I can include the listeners, have y'all be a part of the show, and then I'm going to throw in a little razzle dazzle for good measure. Episodes are going to air every other Monday, so make sure you still tune in every Thursday so you can hop on my train of thought. Make sure y'all also check out them podcast recommendations in the episode notes, and shout out to Sniper T for this beat. His information can be found there as well. So now that I got all that out the way, let's get it. So before I really get all off into this Thoughts to Ponder episode for today, we about to talk about how the coronavirus, I call it the Rona, really out here just ruined my Friday night. So, no, I don't have it. Let me just put that out there. So, I've said before that I do keto. I think I said that on the last Thoughts to Ponder episode. And if you pay attention on Twitter, I've kind of talked about it on there. So this is week 7, of keto. And it's been, an interesting journey because, first of all, I don't even like grocery shopping, let alone having to meal prep in order to be successful. So I've really had to adopt this mindset of like doing what I don't feel like doing because I know I need to and it'll be helpful later. But I don't care. I hate grocery shopping. I don't even like shopping, like clothes shopping. I don't like shopping. It's just, I don't go to Black Friday sales because I'd probably be done punch somebody in the face. Not over a TV, just over the ignorance that, so I'm not a fan of shopping. And I'm not a fan of shopping when I know everybody and their mama's going to be there. You know what I mean? So, I went grocery shopping Friday. Now, that's new because, because I hate grocery shopping so much. At first, I'm off on the weekends. So, at first, I would shop and cook on Sunday. I would go to church, and then I would shop afterwards, and I would cook. And then that was miserable. It was the worst. Then, let me go on Saturday and then cook on Sunday. So that was a little better, but it still made me feel like I didn't really have a rest day on my weekend. It still made me feel like I had to be going somewhere, So then I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to switch to going Friday night after my daughter has an appointment every Friday. So I'm going to go grocery shopping Friday nights. That way, I've already been out all day anyway. It doesn't even matter. But then that way on Saturday, if I don't want to go anywhere, I don't have to unless my oldest daughter has to go to work. I'll take her to that. Okay, so now you got all the background information. So, Friday, I went to go grocery shopping. And you seeing all the hype on social media about the Rona and how it just has everybody buying everything up. And I'm like, well, I'm about to go see what it's about because I have to go grocery shopping. Now, mind you, we're not out of food, thank God. But still, there are certain things that I needed or even just stuff that I want that I should be able to get because it's grocery day. You know what I mean? I have the money to get the groceries, so I should be able to go get it. So, there was not a paper towel or toilet paper in sight. I'm not really tripping off that, though, because I just bought paper towels and toilet paper on Monday. So, and usually when I buy enough for a couple weeks anyway, just because that's just not, with all girls, besides when my son's here, you can't be running out of toilet paper. So I usually buy that in bulk anyway. Paper towels too, just because, I don't know. I just don't like to run out of, stuff that I know I'm gonna need. Okay. So, we good on that. But here's where I'm going to tell you the places that pissed me off. I went to Walmart. And I'll usually go to Walmart for certain stuff and go to this other grocery store for produce and stuff. So cereal, for example. I buy, the bag cereal, malto meal, whatever. I always have because it's just a better deal. You know what I mean? I don't need the name brand or whatever because I feel like I read somewhere it's the same ingredients, just different packaging, which that's smart because then you're getting money from different income levels. And so once I learned that, I'm like, well, y'all about to get this malto meal. And even if it ain't the same, that's what you about to get. Do y'all know? And I know people wasn't even rocking with bag cereal like that because I never had a problem getting what I needed. There was always tons of variety and whoop-de-woo. Do you know there was not one bag of cereal? So that was the first part that pissed me off. So I'm like, okay, well, we have pancake mix, so, we weren't completely out of cereal, you know what I mean? But I don't really go to the store during the week. So I'm like, okay, I guess they can make pancakes because my kids are on spring break this week and then who knows, how much longer they'll be home. All right, cool. I go around to the milk aisle because my youngest daughter just likes to drink milk, but then also cereal. It wasn't a gallon of milk at all. It don't matter what kind of milk maybe I thought I wanted. It wasn't not a gallon of milk in sight. And furthermore, they had some half gallons of the kind of milk we get, but the gallon was like $1.59 and the half gallons were 95 cents. So then that means I'm spending more money for the same amount of milk because y'all out here buying it all up. And then what else made me mad? Chicken selection was just stupid. The meat selection was just dumb. But I was able to get something. I just had to switch up what I thought. I had to get beef instead of chicken. I usually buy frozen, like broccoli. And I don't like broccoli cuts because it just feels like I get more of the stem. So I always buy frozen bags of broccoli florets, or however you say it, because my kids like broccoli, I like broccoli. I smoke broccoli. No, I don't. I don't at all. But, I can't even talk. Broccoli florets. They were all gone. And then a lot of times I'll get bags of frozen fruit. And I buy stuff like that because then it doesn't go bad, especially with doing keto because you got to watch your carbs. So like I do eat fruits and vegetables, but I'm just not eating a ton of just all this stuff, which anyways, there was nothing. Okay, that's cool. Whatever. We have stuff. It's just it might run out during the week, but it's whatever because I asked the Walmart man. I'm like, how often do y'all get shipments? The Walmart man, the employee, how often do y'all get shipments? And he said every day. So I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe I might have to come back during the week when people hopefully have stocked up on all the stuff that they need, that they feel like they need. And I don't know. Otherwise, maybe we'll just starve to death if we're quarantined and can't leave the house and the stores is closed and whatever they think is about to happen, maybe we'll just die because people really is just buying everything up. And then here's what killed me though. So I was like, okay, well, let me get us a whole bunch of body wash. And because we already have hand soap, because we already wash our hands. I don't even understand why that's like really a thing that you are having to tell people. Like, it's beyond me, bucko. But nah, it's just like, what? But okay, wash your little hands or whatever. But I'm like, I don't want us to run out of body wash. So I'm stocking up more on that because we already have hand soap. I guess other people only care about hand soap and not body wash, because I bet you that body wash section and bar soap section was fully stocked. but all the hand soap and whatnot was gone. And then, to make matters worse, and then I will be done telling y'all about my shopping experience. Now, I had on these boots and these same socks all day at work. Not a problem in the world. Bruh, tell me why I was walking through Walmart and my sock started coming down in my boot. And I know, that is just a terrible feeling. So, not only do I already hate grocery shopping as it is, but all that was going on. So I'm hoping that, once people get all their stuff or whatever, maybe I'll hit up the store during the week. I don't know. But before I get off into the actual episode, I'm going to take a quick break. Y'all going to hear a little promo, and then we'll get into it.
Hi, my name's Alexis, and I'm the host of The Great Unsolved. Each week on Wednesday at 3:30 a.m., I post an episode about an unsolved case having to do with a disappearance or murder that interests me and has been in my thoughts lately. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Great Unsolved, on Instagram at The Great Unsolved, on our YouTube named The Great Unsolved, and find our podcast anywhere you normally listen to podcasts.
All right, so before I really get started and before we get into these thoughts to ponder about whether or not you can overcome your past, let me say, excuse my voice right now. Allergies is kind of kicking my butt, and it kind of sucks right about now because you don't know if it's allergies, you don't know if people got the Rona, but I don't got the Rona. I got allergies, and the weather change, is just making it dumb. But let's get into, can you overcome your past? Can you be redeemed from your ratchetness or not? Now, once again, I invited y'all to participate because y'all are what are going to make these Thoughts to Ponder shows, dope. Like, this is different than the Thursday shows. The Thursday shows, I'll just be talking about what's going on in my life. And, y'all really can't, y'all could weigh in on it, but not really because it's me telling you what happened in my day or what I'm thinking or whatever. But these episodes is where I want y'all to participate. So let me just start off by thanking the people who did call the voicemail and gave me their input or whatever. And if you wanted to and you didn't, because some people I specifically text and was like, hey, can you respond? Simply because I wasn't really sure how many people would respond to Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And I wanted to at least have, some people respond or whatever. So I definitely want to thank those that did participate. And if you missed out, don't you worry your pretty little head. There will be more opportunities for you to participate in the future. So just pay attention to my social media because that's where I kind of post all that. Now, the interesting thing about this one is that when I posted the question and I just said, do you think you can overcome your past or something like that, I had a specific angle in mind at that time that I was going to talk about this topic from. But I asked a really vague question on social media, and I did it on purpose because I kind of just wanted to see where everybody else's head was at with it. And I'm kind of glad I did it that way because, as you'll hear, everybody who responded took that question and they just kind of took it how they interpreted. And I love it because it gives me different things to think about, different things to consider that maybe I hadn't. And so that's kind of why I really like these episodes, because it's cool to hear how y'all think about whatever I put out there. And so what I am going to do is I am going to share some of my past and the different ways that I've made changes in my life, because I do think that it's important to point out that, one, a changed mindset is really the only way that changed behavior is going to stick. And so, as I said, I'm on this journey to be snatched in my 40s and beyond or whatever. And it's a mental battle. I'm literally having to reprogram how I handle stress, because stress eating is how I ended up here. And then two it's also important to point out that like there's no cookie cutter approach to making a change in your life. We're all different, and even if we go through the same external circumstances, we're going to handle it differently. I look at my daughters who both lost their father, and the way that they grieve is completely different. Then the third thing I want to point out is that sometimes you choose change and you're like, you know what, okay, I'm not on this no more, or I'm tired of this or whatever. But then sometimes change comes through like I'm gonna bust it open, and it forces you to start doing something different. And so like there's other ways. Those are just, the three things that I really wanted to point out. But before I tell y'all all my business or whatever, I'm gonna let y'all hear what the people had to say.
Hey, Tamara. So it's Juju from Pretty Gang Radio Podcast, and this is in response to your question that you posted on Twitter. Do you believe someone can overcome their past? I honestly think it depends, because everything is a part of your past. Like what I just said 5 seconds ago is a part of my past. So, death, that's a tragedy. Do you think people can really overcome losing someone that really means a lot to them? To me, I feel like they can live with it, but can they overcome it? No. Maybe a heartbreak. People can get over stuff like that. Maybe, I don't know, getting fired from a job, stuff like that. I think things that really don't have too strong of sentimental value, or things that happen when you're young and you can kind of outgrow. But like those things that are like just really painful that you experience, I don't think you could get over it, especially if it's something that, like, let's say you get in a car crash, and due to that car crash, you can no longer walk. You're probably going to be a little upset with life after that point, because you once were able to walk and now you can't. So is that something you'll be able to get over? No, but I think it's just something that people learn to live through. So that's my answer to that. And I hope to hear myself on your podcast.
My, I'm sorry. No, my thought about the whole thing is actually, yeah, I think people can change from their past. I mean, I'm definitely a prime example for that. If it wasn't for, a lot of stuff in my past. If I was just to follow the script of what my past was supposed to lead me to, I probably wouldn't be even where I'm at today. So I definitely think that people can change from their past. So, yes.
Hey, Tamara, this is Morgan from Her versus World. And on your topic, do you believe someone can overcome their past? I feel like if you mean it as in, can they change as a person from something maybe they've done? It depends on the situation. If it's something like cheating, my opinion, no. Once a cheater, always a cheater to me. I don't feel like they can change if they cheated on that person. Now, if they go into a whole new relationship, I feel like they can actually change it from relationship to relationship. But I feel like once that relationship's already had that trauma, there's really no changing it. They know they can get away with it. Now, if you're talking about overcoming their past as in somebody getting over something maybe traumatic that happened in their past, I say yes. I think anybody can get over anything, no matter how hard it may be, no matter what it is. I think any issue can be overcome.
How we doing? This is Shaquille Palachek. I host the Guys Greatness show. Alright. I read that question and it kind of hit me. Do you believe someone can get over their past? Yes, I believe someone can get over their past for sure. I'm someone who himself has gotten over their past, and me being a Christian, trusting in God always. He could change your life around completely and deliver you from anything. So, yes, ultimately, yes. All right, 100% people can get over their past. I'd appreciate it if everybody who's listening go ahead and listen to the Guys Greatness show as well. And you never know, it might help you overcome issues like this. All right, thank you.
All right, so, excuse me. how I'm gonna respond to everybody's stuff and kind of make it like a little dialogue, even though they said it and then I'm saying it and then whatever, is I'm just gonna basically share the parts from everybody's message that, you know, just really stuck with me. So Juju, which shout out to her, she was actually the first person to respond, and I just remember thinking like, bruh, is anybody gonna leave a message or not? Like, come on, y'all. But what I love is the way that, you know, she kind of pointed out that some things carry more weight than others. You know what I mean? Like, not all things that happen to us have the same heaviness or whatever in our lives. So I really like that. And then my little brother was the second person. I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if he wants me to, because he didn't say his name. So that's my little brother, though. And I say that, and he's a grown man, but that's still my little brother. He's 12 years younger than me. So I loved when he said that he escaped the script of his past. Like, I don't know. That's just really what stuck with me with him. And then with Morgan, you know, she said once the relationship had the trauma, you can't come back from that. And she was kind of talking about cheating when she said that. And like, man, I felt that. Because I know for me personally, if I was to get into another relationship and you was to cheat on me, like, it'd be super hard for me to ever trust you again. And I know that for a fact because I've experienced being cheated on. And it just, even trying to mend it and trying to do whatever, that was just always in the back of my mind. So I felt that. And then the last person, which we're just going to say God's Greatness podcast, because that's the part that, you know, I kind of did this where it's kind of funny because I'm like, you can plug your, you know, promote your podcast, just give me some feedback. And so I kind of framed it as, you know, this is free podcast promo for you. So when you hear all that and people plug in their podcast, understand that I told them to, and mainly because I wanted people to participate, because I know that not everybody that participates might not even listen to the show, but that's okay, because I just need that feedback. But God's Greatness podcast, the part that stuck out to me is really just the part about his dependence on the Lord. And I mean, y'all know, if you've paid attention, if you're a new listener, you're going to find out that my faith is important to me. And so I can 100% say that, you know, it's God's love and his investment in me, and then me participating with him and what he's trying to do in my heart and mind, that's really, plus practical things, of course, but that's a huge part that has helped me overcome a ton of stuff that I've walked through. So now it's story time, all right? So let me give you a little disclaimer first, because I was wild. And mom, because my mom just recently told me that she listens to my podcast, so, you know, I share my life so no one else can tell my story, and so it can be told from my perspective and how, like, you know, kind of like where my head was at when I was doing certain things. But, you know, Mom, you know, I was a wild child and I've come a long, long way, but, you know, I mean, you could listen, I don't care, but I'm just telling you that later you might hear some stuff you might not want to hear, or maybe you might want to know how much your daughter has grown. I'm just putting that out there. My kids, actually, you know, whatever, it is what it is. So, this is a little lightweight thing, though. Save the ratchetness for the end. So, back in the day, I used to steal. Like, it's not funny at all. But it's funny how much I stole. And me and a friend of mine were talking about how we used to do this, because we would steal from the locker room. And we were talking about it recently. We were talking about how we literally had no reason in the world to be doing that. Like, it's not like I grew up in poverty or she grew up in poverty. I mean, it's not like we were rich, but it's like we had no reason to be stealing or doing any of the stuff that we was doing. And then I remember one time when, oh my gosh, I stole somebody's hoodie, right? And I took it home and I hung it on the back of my door in my room. And I remember the school called home. I don't even know how this girl found out it was me. But the school called home and asked my mom. I think I might have been at school. And my mom was like, oh, well, it's on the back of the door. So, like, because she didn't know. They were just kind of like, oh, is there a, whatever. Then let's talk about the time how I was with my mom at the store. And my mom was off doing her thing. And I'm up here shoplifting. Why? I don't know. Because I didn't need to be doing this. Stealing dumb stuff like an electric toothbrush and dumb stuff like that. And I bet you I got caught. And I bet you I was with my mom. And I bet you that the police or whoever was there in the doorway had nothing on the fear that I had of what my mom was about to do when I got home. Had to do diversion and some more stuff. You would think that would have stopped me, but it did, because I never, shoplifted again, but it didn't stop me from, like, stealing. And so I remember being older, and me and some people, and I'll just say some people, because they might not want people to know this, but I don't care. We was walking down the street, and it was this chick, I don't know her, some lady, like, waiting for the bus or something, and we, like, I snatched her purse, and we ran, and then we split up. Like, we had this whole plan we were walking somewhere, and then we had this whole plan that we were going to rob this lady. So my stealing didn't stop there either, because then, so I lived in this duplex at the time. So this means I was an adult. I was like 20, about 20, 21. Why I was doing this, only God knows. But I would break into my neighbor's house and, like, steal stuff from her. Like, she might have been an extreme couponer, and so she would have, like, all these extra, like, detergent, toilet paper. So I would take stuff like that. And she never asked me anything about that. But then one time I got too greedy and we stole her stereo system. Don't ask me why, because I actually had one. And then that's when she called the police, and then she came and knocked on the door asking me, like, if I seen anything. And I'm, like, lying to this woman's face, and I'm like, no, I ain't seen nothing. So let me tell you how I stopped stealing. So then moved somewhere else, and all I know is I used to smoke cigarettes, and I would always buy a carton because it was better deal, like, per pack if you bought a carton. And then that way I wouldn't run out, because I don't know, I don't really like to run out of stuff like that if I can help it. I can't always help it, but I don't like to if I can help it. And so I would keep the carton in the freezer, and then I remember having my purse, like, I would just keep it downstairs in the house. It didn't matter, the doors was locked. But here's the thing, is that, and I'm not going to say my neighbor stole from me, but this is what I'm going to tell you about the facts. The facts is that I got my tonsils taken out, okay? The facts is that me and the girl's dad were kind of beefing at that time, so he wasn't staying at the house. And my neighbor was taking care of me. Like, she was watching the kids. She was cooking for me, because I was just, like, I was 25 when I got my tonsils taken out, and they said I should have gotten them taken out, so it was just this more intense surgery than probably what it should have been. That's what the doctor said. Like, they had to give me a bunch of refills on the pain meds because that's how bad it was. So she was like helping take care of me or whatever. She had a key to my house. So all I know is the next thing you know, packs of cigarettes came up missing and money came up missing. And it was my rent money. And after that, I have never stolen since, because I guess you could say it's like I reaped the harvest of the seeds that I had sown, or karma, or however you look at it. So like for this type of change though, it wasn't that I saw there was a problem. I saw nothing wrong with what I was doing, but it's just once it came back on me, then that's when I decided to change. So that's not one of them like, oh, I need to make a change. It's like change came and was like, I'm gonna bust it open, or you gonna stop doing what you're doing. So that's my first story. And now let's get into some more feedback from the people.
Yes, I believe that you can absolutely overcome your past. And I think that I'm evidence, along with almost every single human being on this earth, that is possible. I think that first you have to acknowledge that there's an issue, and then decide how you're going to deal with the issue, and then what you're going to do differently moving forward. We wouldn't have a present if we didn't have a past, right? And so everybody has a past, good or bad. There's always something in our history that we're not necessarily proud of, or that we, if we had the opportunity, we would redo it. But the big thing, I think, is that we have to know that the past cannot define us, and we have to become, thinkers, and really do something different with our lives. It's hard, especially when that past becomes generational. And so if my grandma was, let's say, sexually assaulted, and then my mom was sexually assaulted, and I was sexually assaulted, I need to make sure that I do anything in my power to not let that happen to my next generation. So I think the best way to overcome our past is to admit we have it, and then look at what we can do to make it better. Yeah, I love your show. Thanks, bye.
What's going on? It's your boy DJ Buzzley from Philly, Door for Hip Hop Podcast, host and curator and producer. I do believe that basically you can get over someone from your past, but there's a few ways that has to happen. One, you have to know that it's over for sure. You have to know that you're done with that person, and you have to get out of the in denial stage. What I mean by that is sometimes that we be in denial and we be thinking that things are over when it really is not, and we be still trying to go out with this person, have sex with this person. We gotta cut those soul ties. That's one of the main ways to get rid of those feelings. The other way is therapy, which most Black people are not opposed to that, but I think it's very therapeutic for you to get therapy and talk out your issues and your problems when it pertains to your past relationships or past in general. So that's my thoughts. Anything from the past can be conquered, but you gotta be willing and able and realize that you are fighting those past demons, and be ready to kill and conquer those demons that's in your past. That's the only way you're gonna get over your past. On that note, I'm signing out. It's your boy DJ Buzzley. Peace.
Hi, this is Vivi, and I would like to respond to the question that you stated on Twitter, and it's, do I believe someone can overcome their past? I do believe someone can overcome their past, but the thing is they have to deal with their past. Just by it being a past does not mean they overcame it. So therefore, for example, if they dealt with some form of hurdle, disagreement, or pain in the past, they have to deal with it face to face and find a solution and find ways that they're not able to repeat it again.
What up, though? This is Brandon from Off the Record, OTR in the house. Do I believe someone can overcome their past? I believe the answer to that question is yes and no. It's all about their mindset, really. If you have somebody that has a fixed mindset, someone who believes that their abilities are fixed, then no, they they won't overcome their past. They will probably believe that whatever they've done, that's who they are, and that's it. Versus somebody who has a growth mindset, somebody who believes that they can develop new skills, new abilities, whatever it is, or new habits, I should say. Those are people who can, and if they have the right mindset, they will overcome their past, regardless of what anybody on the outside thinks. So there it is in a nutshell. For me, it's all about mindset. Peace.
All right, so let's respond to Kirsten first. Of course, I'm going to go in order of the comments or whatever. So what I like that she said was that the past does not define us. And I love that because sometimes it's easy to stay stuck on our mistakes or beat ourselves up. And I feel like if we are willing to learn from our mistakes, they can actually oftentimes be stepping stones to get us where we need to be. So I really like that. And then the next one, DJ Bugsy, I think that's how you say his name. I think that's what he said. I'm sorry. Maybe I should have wrote that down better, but whatever. Therapy. That's the part that I love that he pointed out. Just how helpful that could be. Especially, I know it's getting better, but I just feel like in the Black community, mental health isn't viewed as it should be at times. Sometimes it's like, oh, that's white people stuff, and it's like we all got minds, we all got emotions, we all got brains. So I've never understood where that thinking comes from, and I just think that me personally, I've gone to therapy a couple of times. Once was after my divorce, because it was kind of like, how did I get here? I don't ever want to come here again. And then you get to digging and figuring out all kinds of stuff. That is how I got into this unhealthy relationship. And then also to help me process my grief. And in both of those situations, like, I learned some really helpful coping skills, learned about boundaries. And then honestly, it was just super healthy for me to have my feelings validated. And so I really like that. Vivi, just the importance, of dealing with their past. And I love that because I think it's super harmful if we just let stuff build up. And so I just think you do have to face your past, and when you're ready, of course, but I just think it's not something you could pretend like it didn't happen. And I think it's also not necessarily healthy in extreme ways that some people have this like let go, let God mentality. And I'm like, it just depends, because you still have to address and acknowledge that there is an issue for you to give to him. So you can't just ignore it. And then I'm gonna go ahead and plug her podcast since she didn't. So it's Not Perfect, Just Broke podcast. She said she didn't want to, so I'm gonna do it for her, because she is hilarious. Like, sometimes I shouldn't listen to her when I'm at work, because she will really have me like cracking up, laughing out loud. But she also always has like some really good takeaways that are super helpful. So you should check her out. And then Brandon from Off the Record, the growth mindset. I just love that because, I mean, if you pay attention, that's the whole point of this podcast. Like, I'm just trying to grow, and I'm trying to bring y'all with me if that's what you're on. And so, speaking of growth, now I'm going to save the Ratchet story for last. That gives the people, really it's just my mom. She might not want to, hear that. I don't go into like details like that, but I don't know. So I'm just, anyways. So I'm not going to talk about that just yet, but I am going to go a little deeper and kind of get into how I'm overcoming my insecurities. And I'm going to say it like that because, like, this is a battle that I constantly fight. And I've, struggled with various insecurities, like, as far back as I can remember. And some stuff is minor, like, okay, so, like, I'm 5'9", and I vividly remember, I don't remember how old I was. I was, like, somewhere in my teen years, but it was, like, 14, 13, something like that. And I just remember this chick, I don't even know who she was because she wasn't my friend. I was somewhere at something. But I just remember this chick telling me that, like, no dude is ever going to want you because all men like short girls. Now, that's super minor. It's obviously not true, and it's definitely not an insecurity anymore, but it was, like, in that moment. And how I overcame that, though, is just I had a conversation with my mom, and she was like, that's not true. And because it was my mom, I believed her. But, like, on a deeper level, I often feel and kind of, like, struggle with the feeling that, like, I'm not good enough. And it's in all things. Like, yeah. So, as I've kind of said in the past, I've figured that a majority of that insecurity kind of stems from the fact that, like, my bio dad wants nothing to do with me. And so the message that a lot of times the conversation in my head is like, well, if I'm not good enough for him to want to have a relationship with me and he's my dad, like, then I'm not good enough for, XYZ, whatever that may be. But the way that I overcome that pain over and over again, like, if I'm honest, is really two ways. The first way is just reminding myself that my worth doesn't decrease because of his inability to see it. So that's the first way. And I'm not going to go all into these super deep because that is not the point of this episode. But I'm also going to say the second way is, now, as I said earlier, y'all know my faith is super important to me. So for me, agreeing with what God says about me helps me to get out of my feelings as well. So, like, just one example is, like, my bio dad rejects me, but God chooses me. So just something simple like that. Agreeing with being chosen by God rather than agreeing with being rejected from my dad. And I could go on, but I won't because, like I said, that's not the point of this particular episode. And so now what I'm going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, it'll be listening to more messages. So if you're thinking about doing a podcast, I highly suggest you use Anchor, and here's why. Now, first things first, it's free, and you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. I'm talking dollar bills, y'all. Plus, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you to the major platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a bunch of others, so that's one less thing you got to worry about. And they got all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast in one spot. And you can do all that from your phone or your computer. So, in my opinion, it's really the easiest way to make a podcast. Now, if that's what you're looking for and you're ready to jump on it, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hey, Tamara, this is Shelly, and I am answering your Instagram post question of do you believe someone can overcome their past? I do sincerely believe you can overcome your past, but you have to want to. I think a lot of people use excuses to not get rid of their past or leave their past in the past because they don't want to focus on enhancing themselves sometimes or working on themselves, doing things that they need to do to make their lives a little bit better. So sometimes people hold on to the past because it's easier, it's what they know, it's more comfortable. Stepping out of their comfort zone involves letting some things go. And, that's unfortunate, but can someone overcome their past? Absolutely. I think we sometimes think that our paths are too horrifying, too horrible, too tough, difficult, all of the challenges that we faced to move forward. But those are experiences that will help us in our present life and in our future. So I do believe that you can overcome your past, but like I said, I just think that you have to want to. And if you really want to, then you can definitely do it. So I hope this helps your question, and I will be listening to your podcast. Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, this is Michael of the Purple Cobweb. Well, that's the name of my podcast. Anyway, yes, people can definitely overcome their past. The reason why I believe that is just simply because, just look at the greats, look at everyone that's, has overcome, like Gucci Mane. Look at Gucci Mane, the Gucci smile, he overcomes so much. That's just one example of just so many people who have learned from their mistakes, learned their lessons, and, just moved on. They may or may not have asked for, to apologize, or have apologized, and they've just done, everything they could to just overcome their mistakes. And sometimes it's not even about mistakes, it's just about growth, it's about changing, who you are and just evolving. And, I think anyone and, mostly everyone has done that. And there are those that you can utilize as an example that haven't changed, but you can still make the same, argument for those who can change and who want to change. And that's all it's about, if you want to change and if you want to get better. That's just my take on it.
Hi, my name is Pauletta, and I do believe a person can overcome their past. From me dealing with someone with a troubled past, been in jail, did a bid, you get out, sometimes when you have that lifestyle, it'll make you go back down the wrong road to the same nonsense again. But this person got out. He's been out 6 or so years, clean, had clean without any troubles, jobs, cars, apartment, and doing it the right way. No illegal stuff, just working. So I think that person, if they really want to change and they keep themselves surrounded with positive people and don't go around, people from that other lifestyle, they can thrive, they can succeed, and they can change their life around. I just believe that you have to have the right mindset, and you can't believe that if you want different, that you're able to go back around those same kind of people that you was around when you gotten into all types of trouble. I think that you have to change your whole circle. You really have to get rid of that whole lifestyle. There's such thing of saying hi or bye and keeping it moving, because, hey, if you want better things, you have to change your whole lifestyle, your whole mindset, your whole train of thought, the people you surround yourself with. So my answer is yes. You can change your life. You can change it around. I believe you really can. And that's my opinion. I'm dealing with someone that definitely has changed their life around. Thank you.
What up, though? Shout out to the homie family that does. This your boy Mike from Off the Record Podcast, also known as OTR_Mike on the Twitterverse. So holla at me. So yeah, to answer your question, I do think that people can move on from their past and get better from their past or recover from their past. In my family alone, we had a couple people that struggled with substance abuse. And I had one in particular being my brother. And, when you're dealing with substance abuse, a lot of times you live a life for the worst. You do a lot of hurtful things to the people that love you. And I'm glad to report that he is doing well, and, he's been clean for years now, and we still love him the same. And we're just happy to see that he's doing better. So I would say that he has recovered from his past and is living a good life now. So, yeah, I think that you can. And keep doing your thing, homie. You killing it in the podcast game. I always tell you that you are like the most supportive podcaster in this whole community. So we appreciate you at Off the Record. And keep doing your thing. We're going to keep listening. Peace.
All right, so Shelly, I really like the part where she talked about it's more comfortable to not change. I mean, because I really think that, honestly, if we want to make changes, we're going to have to embrace uncomfortable when we're trying to overcome our paths. Because the reality is growth ain't cute, growth ain't fun, growth is hard, and it's painful, and it's messy. And a lot of times we're having to let go of parts of ourselves, especially when you get into like deeper pain that maybe happened as a child. Like you might have a new identity after you heal from your past. You are going to sometimes, I know for me personally, I've had to like learn, or I should say relearn how to do certain things, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit later, just because things that happened to me as a child shaped who I was for a while. With Michael, I really like how he talked about you got to learn the lesson, because me personally, I'm a firm believer that we can learn from any and everything if we keep our eyes open. And I also love the part where he talked about, evolving, because remaining stagnant it isn't an option for me. And personally, I feel like it shouldn't be an option for anybody. I feel like we should all be and always be trying to like grow and progress or whatever. Shout out to my big cousin Carletta. But I love the part where she pointed out, the importance of surrounding ourselves with people who kind of match up with the goals that we're trying to achieve. Now, I've said this before in previous episodes, but my circle of people who I talk to on a regular basis looks really different than what it did a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I mean, and it's okay, like no shade to anyone. I didn't fall out with anyone. It's not even that type of thing. But in just a small example, like I said at the beginning, I'm doing this keto thing. It's week 7. And just the other day, I talked to a really good friend of mine, and she was kind of like, "You're still doing keto?" Like she was kind of shocked. But here's the thing. A different really good friend of mine, he's been holding me accountable like from really, I can't even say day one, from before day one. And I gotta log all my food in my Fitness Pal, and then I gotta send this dude screenshots of my daily stuff. And then on the days that I work out, I send him screenshots of my Apple Watch, activity stuff or whatever. And so I have never been consistent with this. Like over the last decade of me trying to get my life back together, I don't know why I always say it like that, but like I would start and then I would stop. And then time would go by and I would start and then I would stop. And I would never make it past a month. But the reason why I asked him to hold me accountable is because I was already peeping how like he was already on that. He was already meal prepping and he was already doing 4 a.m. workouts and stuff, and like already had just this discipline. And so like even when I complain or I talk stuff, which I told him ahead of time that was going to be a part of him holding me accountable, just to give him a heads up in case he didn't want to do it. Like he don't care about none of what I be talking about, number one. He also gets on me when I need it, and he's not intimidated to do so. And he gets on my nerves sometimes, but that's okay because I need that. But he also reminds me that I'm not a quitter when I'm telling him kind of like the mental, because this is a mental battle for me. And it's like, it's not fun and exciting anymore. And as I've also said in other episodes, I really struggle with consistency because it just starts to feel like, oh my gosh, this is boring. Like I want to, do what I feel. And so I'm really having to reprogram my brain right now to do what I need to do, even if it's not what I feel like doing, and being more like goal focused. And so then that's the other part. He'll remind me of my why. And like, I've asked people to hold me accountable to stuff previously and they never did. And so like, he's the first person who's actually held me accountable. And I say all that to say, like, your circle does matter. And then Mike from Off the Record. I really appreciate just the transparency, just like sharing part of your, your family's life. You didn't really have to do that. But I think the key thing that he shared from the perspective of someone who, might have been hurt by the choices of his brother is just the importance of seeing people as who they are now versus keeping them in the box of their former self. I think that, change in and of itself is hard, but it could be like more difficult when the people around us make it harder because they don't even see the changes that we've made and they want to keep bringing up the past and they want to do this and that. And so that's kind of, my thoughts on them. So, speaking of changes, let's go ahead and get in some of my ratchet past. And so I guess I'll give y'all some background information that, as a child, I was sexually molested. And as a result of that, for many, many years, I didn't know how to establish proper boundaries with boys. And then even when I got older, men in some of my adult years. So I gave myself to people that I shouldn't have. And I remember when I was 20, me and my son's dad had broke up, and when we broke up, my mindset was super trash. Like, I just had this mindset I remember of men be out here just doing whatever, and it seems like nobody really says anything about it, so I'm gonna just do me, and I don't really care what anybody has to say, about it. And I was out here going to frat parties and just kind of doing my thing, and I was a mom at that point. It's not like I wasn't, it was just me. Like, I was a mom at that point. And so here's where it gets foolish. So I knew the girl's dad before I knew my son's dad, but I met my son's dad through the girl's, basically their uncle. It wasn't their uncle then because they weren't alive, but I met my son's dad through the girl's uncle, and my son is the oldest. So then him and my girl's dad, they were friends. So that's, that's part one. But like I said, I did know the girl's dad first. And as a matter of fact, my son and, basically my stepdaughter, because we ended up getting married later, but my son and my stepdaughter, my daughter's older sister, are close in age, and we were so cool that we weren't messing around or anything at that point, but when she was born, I took him to the hospital to go see, go with his baby mama because we were friends. So when I say we were friends, we were friends for real, but then we just became even cooler, and, we'd smoke together, we'd drink together because that's what I was on back then. And then one day we crossed that line. And so that's bad, of course, because that was my son's dad's friend. But that's not even all, though. Man. Because then one day they had this party, right? So the girl's dad, him and his brother, whatever, they had this party. And most of their homies were there. And these homies were all my son's dad's friends. But my son's dad wasn't there. And if I remember correctly, I was supposed to pick him up on my way home from work. Or not home from work, because we were I mean, we had a son, so, like, we were cool still, but at that point, like, we weren't messing around or nothing like that still. But I didn't. And I did that on purpose because I was on just this BS mindset. And so, to make a long story short, and also to not make me have to make this an explicit story, because for whatever reason, I don't want to have it be explicit content. That's why I'll just describe stuff and I don't cuss and all these things, because I don't know why. I just don't want to. But that night I crossed lines, which you know what I mean by cross lines, with multiple dudes that night, one after another, so not like all at the same time. It wasn't, I mean, not like it makes it any better, but just making, whatever. But all of them were my son's dad's friends. You know what I mean? So why am I sharing all this? Because 9 times out of 10, you probably would have never guessed that about me. So that's number one. Most people say, and I don't know how much of the rest of my life I'll get into on this podcast, but I don't have any shame about anything I've ever done. So it is what it is. Like I said, I tell my story so no one else can tell it in a way that they want to tell it. I mean, this is public information. People who have known me for a while know this or whatever. But the thing about it, though, is that most people say I don't seem like what I've been through or what I've done when they hear about parts of my life. And then, of course, let me just say this, nothing like that ever happened again. Like, that was literally the only time anything like that happened. But that's because I learned that that was not what I wanted for myself. But I had to decide that, and that's the thing. But also, I also had to learn how to create and keep better boundaries with men because, even though that particular situation never happened again, there have been other times where I just simply gave myself to people who didn't deserve me. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying physical intimacy is bad at all. Like, I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that in the wrong context, it can do so much damage to your heart and mind. And I can only speak from a female perspective because I know from conversations I've had with men that men and women view sex differently. And so, like, I get that. But for me and the average female, in the wrong context, it just does damage. But the good thing is that I have learned my worth. And so because of that, I can't be ashamed of what I've done because, now that I know better, I do better. And so if you listen to the different things, ultimately my standpoint I'm going to give after I let you hear these last 2 messages, and then I'm going to let y'all get out of here.
Yeah, so as far as people changing, this is Marcel of DNH, by the way. I think that anyone can have a bad past or a good past and totally do a 180 towards the future. Anything can happen. Life is fast, actually, not slow. And I think that if you are someone and you do have a shaky past and you're trying to get on the right track, and people just won't let you do it, still do you, because that's for you and not for them. Yeah, man, that's my thoughts, man. I believe that people can change. Anyone can change. Everyone can change if they choose to. All right, Marcel out.
What up? So, listen to Summer to the break of dawn, and she asked the question, do you believe someone can overcome their past? I say yes. I say yes simply because if a person is willing to overcome their past, it takes first of all some some believe that they can overcome their past. Our past do shape our present, and our past do shape our future. But our past does not define who we are. And so getting over our past, whether it's traumatic events, reckless behaviors, toxic relationships, I think when a person comes to an end of themselves and they get tired and really, really tired, they begin to make subtle changes that end up becoming bigger changes. And so, therefore, they overcome their past. So, can a person overcome their past? Yeah, because I did it. Look at me now. Yeah, camera to the break is gone.
All right, so Marcel, which DNH, if you're wondering, is Diapers and Haircuts podcast, so you should check that out. But I like how he said, still do you. You know what I mean? Like, don't let the naysayers make you switch up what you're working towards. And I feel like that kind of goes back to the whole having the right people in your circle. Like, sometimes you can be around, you know, the same old and do what you got to do, and it's fine. But sometimes you got, and only you can make that determination, but sometimes you might have to, like, fall back from people. And it don't mean you beefing, it just means you got to be less available because y'all ain't on the same path. And so that's something you might want to think about. But then when people are being haters and they're trying to say, oh, you can't do this, oh, you can't do that, I love proving people wrong, and not like in a, I don't feed off that, but it's just interesting how, what's a small example? I remember, before I was starting college, I started college like, I want to say 2009, December 2009, yeah, is when I started college. And I graduated, well, I finished classes in March 2015, but, you know, I walked in May 2015. And I remember I went to this community college, and then I went to this university, and the university that I went to, it had an accelerated program, and I remember somebody, and I knew that's what I was supposed to do, and I remember somebody trying to tell me not to do the accelerated program because it was hard for them. And not only did I do the accelerated program, which basically it was like 5-week semesters. So a semester would be 5 weeks, and then you'd have to write a 10+ page paper. Now, for someone like me, I love to write. So I would often write my papers the night before they were due. I don't know why I did that, but I just did. Somebody who, like, when I was at the community college and we would have to take tests, I am not good at tests at all. So for me, not only did I do the accelerated program, but towards the end, because I was trying to hurry up and be done, because I wanted to be done by a certain time, I doubled up on classes. So there were some semesters where I was taking 2 classes at a time. And here's the thing that's kind of crazy about all this is, okay, I remember mapping out my senior year of college, and I remember the advisor was like, we were trying to figure out if I was going to double up on this last little thing or whatever. And she was like, well, if you don't double up, you can take it in the summer, but you can still walk in May and graduate. And I remember thinking, no, I don't want to do that, because I want it to be that when I actually walk, that I'm done. Like, I know me personally, if I have this sense of completion, I'm not going to want to then turn around and have to take classes. So that was my mindset. So I doubled up and I was done with classes in March, and then I walked in May. But here's the crazy thing about it, is I graduated May 2015, and the girl's dad was killed June 2015. And what I remember thinking is that, thank God I'm not in school right now. Like, thank God the only thing I have to focus on is work and kids, because I don't know that I would have finished any classes if I would have, if I would have had to do that. Did I know that was going to happen? Nah. Like, no. Ever in my wildest dreams did I ever think something like that was going to happen. But it's just crazy how that worked out. And so LaRonda, I really like how she said our past shapes us, but it doesn't define who we are. Because the reality is that, like, we are not the sum total of what we've been through. And here's my thoughts on the whole can you overcome your past thing. I think as you'll hear from everybody, I think you can if you want to. And I personally think the only time you can't overcome your past is if you don't want to. And what I mean by that is that your mindset. Now, this is not taken into account if you have like a chemical imbalance in your brain or, some sort of mental illness or something. Okay, these things, that it's different. I'm talking about just like mentally sane person who doesn't have any, chemical, what am I trying to say? I don't know, doesn't have any issues with their brain. I'm not talking about someone who has that. I'm talking about people who don't have that. I feel like if you choose to, you can, and if you don't overcome your past, then that means you're choosing not to, because I think that we don't get to choose what happens to us at all sometimes, but we do get to choose how we respond. But here's the thing, and I want to say this, especially if there's someone listening who's like struggling right now with their past, like where you are right now does not have to be where you stay if you don't want it to be. And the thing about it is, like, you can repurpose your past or even your pain and like use what you've learned to help the next person on their journey and kind of like make a difference in this world. And what I've learned just kind of in the field that I work in, if you're new, I work in the social work field, and I have for years. My jobs have been helping people in various different ways. I worked at a women's 3/4 way house. I was teaching job skills to teenagers for a while, and then now I'm working with the company that I work for works with the welfare population. And so here's the thing with that is that, and then I've done youth ministry like for a long time, since like 2006. And so here's the thing, 2005, I don't know, for a long time. But here's the thing, there are things that I've been through that I can relate to what somebody's going through right now that maybe I overcome, that I could speak to them in a way that they'll receive it because they know we have relatability and they feel like, okay, you understand at least somewhat what I'm going through because you've been there. And so that's the whole part of repurposing your pain, because there have, especially with young people, man, when the girl's dad was killed, for some reason, all these young people that had lost either a mom or a dad just kind of came in my path, and it's like I could speak to them in a way that maybe other people couldn't because they didn't understand that. And like, while there are many things that I've gone through in life that I wish I never did, sometimes when I have those situations where somebody is like, they understand what I'm going, or not what I'm going through, what I went through, because they're going through it now. And sometimes in those moments, it's not like I'm glad it's not like I'm glad it happened, but it's kind of like, I'm glad I could speak some truth into their life, like from a personal place, not just some little cliche phrase, but it's like, hey, this is what I did, and it might not work for you, but you could find something, and just kind of encourage them or whatever. And so like, that's really why I do this podcast, or any type of positive posts I tweet or post on other social media, is really because I'm just trying to repurpose my pain. Like, it seems like I always have a lot going on. That's what I tell a really good friend of mine. Like, my life just always seems like a mess. There's just always something. But then that's why I share my life so transparently, because it's like, I know I'm not the only one. Now, that's one thing I know, is I'm not the only one going through it. We all going through it in some way, form, or fashion. So repurpose your pain. And so there you have it, folks. My personal opinion is that you can be redeemed from your ratchetness, because I've been redeemed from my ratchetness. And so, about to get up out of here, but be looking out for the next Thoughts to Ponder topic that you could weigh in on. I will post it here in the next, week or so. Well, it don't have to be the next week, because the next episode airs in 2 weeks. But make sure you call that, leave a voicemail. You will be on the show. I want your feedback. And yeah, be looking out for that. So first things first, shout out to Sniper T for this beat, and all his information can be found in the episode notes. Now, like I say on social media, I want y'all to interact with me, so here's a few ways you can do that, and the links and whatnot to all these methods are in the episode notes as well. Now, you can leave me a voicemail. Call 720-457-4022. You can email me. Hey, y'all can follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, and I'll follow you back. And then you can go ahead and slide in the DMs, just not on no weird stuff. You can also like the Facebook page, and the link on there goes to my email as well. Now, what I need y'all to do is pay attention on my socials for when I ask for feedback for the Thoughts to Ponder episodes that air every other Monday, because the reality is that y'all feedback is what makes those episodes dope. So, leave me a voicemail, follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or email me. Just holla at your girl.